glad to be with you today for this webinar on an important topic related to a specific soft skill, the leadership. Today we have a set of brilliant minds, international brilliant minds that wrote a book, International Perspective in Leadership. And today they will bring their experience on leadership. I would like to hand over to Dr. Hamad El-Zain, who is one of the authors. And Dr. Hamad completed a doctorate in business administration at the Grenoble École de Management in France, holding a PMP project management degrees, and Dr. Hamad has over 12 years of teaching experience and 10 years of training practice. So I would like to say thank you at the beginning to all the different speakers we have today. And the stage is yours, Hamad, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for hosting us. I would like to thank the PMI Northern Italy chapter for hosting us. It's a great pleasure to be with you. Actually, this book wouldn't have been possible without globalization. It's because of globalization that we were able to finish this book. We are 9 authors. Out of those 9 authors, I have only met 2 in person. I've only met 2 and have coffee with or seen them face to face. The remainings, we are virtual friends. We have shared our knowledge over the internet like we're doing now. It's all because of the development of the internet, of the technology. We are able to make this book, to make this happen. I would like to thank everyone, each and every author for their contribution. It's a great pleasure to have a book with such contribution and to have all those diversified minds in leadership, a lot of new ideas, a lot of perspectives, I would say different and diversified perspectives in leadership in one book. Actually, unfortunately, not all of the authors are here. We are the 6 authors that you can see us, and we'll be presenting for you today. Okay, regarding my chapter, it's the first chapter in the book. So, denial management. Actually, it's a little bit difficult to describe denial management in few words because it's a new concept. It's a new concept that I have proudly introduced, and I hope to elaborate more on this in coming peer-reviewed journals through articles and in other maybe chapters and books later on. I'm preparing all the scales necessary for this. It's a new concept that I hope in 3 or 4 years' time it was going to be something that everyone hear about it. But actually, denial management is something that we face in every day's life with our managers, with our colleagues, with our subordinates, with a lot of people around us. So what's this denial management? As humans, sometimes we are very egocentric to say we have weaknesses. We reject our weaknesses and we don't admit them. So that is denial management. So looking into denial, conducting a root cause analysis of why those people are denying them. And, once we are able to solve this problem, to let the employees admit their weaknesses, it's going to be easier for us to make them perform better, which will lead to a better productivity. Okay, we go now to the next slide. So actually, some employees, they have a habit of denial. We cannot convince them that they have those weaknesses. They don't admit it, even deep inside them. Their perception just hides this weakness. It's not unusual for people, for employees to be reluctant to admit their weaknesses or their shortcomings and skill gaps. Although, if we admit that we are humans, then we have to admit that we have weaknesses, we have problems, we face things. The more we admit our weaknesses, actually, I believe the stronger we are. Um, so for those people, uh, you have to know how to deal with them. You have to approach them, and there are a lot of approaches for denial management. We go to the last slide. Okay. So sometimes it's very difficult for employees to admit the balance between their weaknesses and strength. So, as I said, as humans, we have both strength and weaknesses. Uh, Accepting our strength and improving them is amazing. But what is better than that is admitting our weaknesses and saying, yes, we have weaknesses, we are humans, and we are there to say, we can admit uh, our weaknesses and corrected them. Because once we corrected them, we are a step further into perfection. So as a result, managers, directors, um, field managers should pay close attention to this, especially for those who are uh, close to them, especially for those skilled um, people that really have this tendency to deny one's flaws or one's weaknesses. Believe me, once we are able to uh, solve this denial management, I think there are a lot of things that will be improved in employees, and we can a lot make them better employees. Um, Finally, if anybody, this thing can be helpful for companies and for academic use. Um, Later on, I will put my name in the chat, my email and phone number if anyone is interested in this concept. And of course, if you don't mind, as a PMI North Italy chapter, if it's okay to do it, I will put my contact information in the chat. So anybody is wishing to know more about denial management, to apply it for companies, how can it help? I'm more than pleased to help. Okay. Now, going to our next speaker, 30 plus years of experience in leadership skills, development and coaching, executive, HR generalist, and mentor, professor in psychology, taught courses in organizational psychology and team in the workplace. From USA, it's our great pleasure to welcome Donna Cole.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, there was a time when leaders were preparing to fill a vacancy in their organization. They would look for best fit or like-mindedness. But we know that with globalization and the idea of diversity, we have to move from that idea of like-mindedness and move into a leadership role that allows us to manage and understand worldviews. What I'm going to do is talk about what worldviews are. This was a phrase that was coined back in the 1700s, but I think that it's really important now. I'm going to describe how having that like-mindedness can create groupthink, which can create difficulties for the organization to be able to do full problem solving and come up with solutions to problems that are going to be more effective. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how to avoid groupthink, because I believe that if I give you some pointers on what you can do, then that will make my talk with you today very helpful. Next slide. So each of us has a worldview, and the worldview can change as we are educated by our environment. Our worldviews are our adopted perceptions. And I highlighted adopted because it's not something that we are born with, but we pick this up from people that we learn from and admire. We understand the world through an optimistic eye, or we're pessimistic. Uh-oh, here we go. We understand the world through an optimistic eye or pessimism. And if you think about how people dealt with the idea of remote workers, there were some pessimistic leaders that thought that when people worked remote, that they would not be productive. But the remote workers showed that that wasn't true at all. I've given you 5 different areas that worldview covers, but there are many, many more that I cover in the chapter. But just basically, it identifies what each of us identifies as what is normal in the workplace. We look at how we fit into the work group. Is there equality, or do we have a sense of superiority? What is our responsibility to other people, and how do we define success and failure? So again, having that like-mindedness in the organization can limit our problem solving. So when we are hiring, we want to be able to, yes, create an atmosphere that's comfortable and allows people to voice their opinions, but it doesn't mean that there has to be a like-mindedness. Next slide. So in managing the organization, I suggest that you look at it this way. Supervisors, managers, people in executive roles, they create the atmosphere that people then identify as the work atmosphere for the organization. What is your organization's reputation? That reputation is partly built upon the worldviews of those people that are in leadership programs. Somebody took me backwards. You want me to talk about it again? Okay, so what we want to do is make sure that our messaging, whether it's environmental, wall hangings, what we state in our emails, what people see when they walk through the doors, in our behaviors and our spoken messages, we want those to be inclusive. We also want to make sure that we as leaders are aware of the intended and unintended messaging that goes on in our organization. When there are employee concerns or stakeholder concerns like our customers or clients, we want to be able to have a response to those that allows the person with the concern to know that they are valued. And lastly, we want to be able to keep open dialogue and not allow groupthink to occur. Next. And lastly, my suggestion on how to avoid groupthink. And groupthink is when the leader says something, everybody goes along with it and it's never questioned. When the group comes up with a solution, nobody says that they have a different way of seeing it. If you want to support globalization and avoid groupthink, I've given you 5 ways that you can do that. And you can look through those. I'm going to give you an example of how globalization and avoiding groupthink can be very important. It says there that you want to get rid of unwritten rules. And I had a client who was up for a promotion in her organization, and she was told that she had to write a letter in support of her promotability. So I helped her do this, and it was 2 pages. She was turned down for a promotion because she was told that the letter needed to be 10 pages and nothing less. But nobody had told her that because she wasn't in with the in group. So that unwritten rule kept her from being promoted. They told her that she had to wait until the following year. It's situations like that that allow people to believe that if they're not in with the in group, then they're going to be passed over. And sometimes that's true. So you want to support diversity of thinking and problem solving. You want to get rid of unwritten rules. You want to support worldview management training so that people understand their management. And we want to help to rebuild relationships when difficult discussions occur. That's my support, and I hope that this has been helpful.
Ahmad, please unmute.
Yeah. Okay, now mentoring, building wisdom, speaking, striving for humility, PM volunteer, PM fellow, certified program and project manager, PMP, PGMP, 31 years working for IBM customers, first project in 1974. And if you don't mind, I can add, you are one of my favorite, top of the list, virtual friends. You've been always a good friend. We are, I think, good friends, virtual good friends. This is globalization. This is what we are talking about. Let's all welcome from Germany, Thomas Valenta.
Thank you, Ahmad. And yes, we are friends, and I enjoy also working with you, and that you took the leadership here to create this this book. And my apologies, Donna, to the hiccups during your presentation. But the audience can see, you know, there are 6 people to be coordinated, and there's Agnese, the Italy chapter, who is somehow trying to manage it also. And, you know, the hiccups are human, and so we are not AI. No? That's the proof.
Absolutely. I didn't mind at all.
So my chapter in that book is about wisdom. And, you know, wisdom is everybody has an idea what wisdom is, but I took a book, and it was written by psychiatrists, people in the Charité hospital in Berlin, and they said wisdom is the achievement of 10 competencies by people that are important to be mentally healthy. And actually, when they get mentally sick people, you know, depressions or suicidal thoughts or something like that, they employ therapies that lead to these 10 competencies. So I thought immediately when I read this book, so if you do it preventive, you know, if you really start with these competencies now, then you don't run into a bigger risk to have mental problems later. Maybe that. And it also enables you to manage your life better. So wisdom leads automatically to resilience. And I will discuss it in the book. And if you are resilient, if you are wise, you know, you have serenity, and you are not have self-control and all of that, people look up to you and say, oh, this is a good leader. And so leadership comes from having wisdom and being resilient, you know, being somebody that is like a North Star in the environment, in the whole VUCA world, yeah, if you want. And if you are wise, it not only is leadership requirement for business, but it's also that you live a good life, because you really can develop yourself. So what is wisdom then? What are these 10 competencies? And that's the bulk of the information in my chapter. So the first one, and I don't go through all of these, because then I would explode to the time allotted to me, you know. But I think what's really important is the first one is changing perspectives, having different mindsets. So if I always hear people saying you have to change your mindset to be this and that, I always think, no, really, you have to be able to use that mindset that is applicable for the situation you're in. So if you have different views on things, that's always helpful. You don't in a funnel, you know, in your own, you don't have these horse panels besides your eyes, so that you only can see up front. And the next one I want to share is a self-distance. You know, if you can stand outside of yourself, observe yourself. You know, it's also called humility. If you are a humble person, you don't brag with your titles and achievements and all of that. And you know these guys who do that, you know, and I guess like me, you like these guys better who don't brag around, who are really humble, whom you could look at. And these are 2 of the competencies you can develop, and we can develop all of them by ourselves, step by step, and the result will be that we are really more stable, more
methodology. This is when you have governance and you actually regress it against success as well. And this was the paper on triangulation here. So something that's pretty advanced that you probably won't get into. And then this is the summary of topics and the theories we use, the methodology.
There is no AI, Thomas, you know.
Who's that?
I don't know who is speaking.
And then this is the series of publishing. So hopefully all of you actually choose this path.
May I ask to mute all of you, please?
Okay.
Wait.
Sorry.
No.
This was not an author of our book, and I really didn't get so much of what he was saying, but so feel free to contact us, contact me later on, and we can discuss about all this stuff. Yeah, so with that, I want to hand it over to Ahmad again, who will introduce Gara.
Our next speaker, researcher, author, full-time lecturer, speaking emotional agility, 14 years of academic and teaching experience, a PhD candidate, and a member of GRAL. From Lebanon, let's all welcome Ms. Ghada Kalekish.
Hello, good evening, and thank you, Dr. Ahmed. In my chapter in the book, I talk about emotionally agile leadership, how we can build leaders in order to sustain. And we talk about emotional agility, which is considered to be a constant must in a dynamic environment. Know that leaders, slide one please, leaders across the globe are more and more driven towards finding new ways to adapt and sustain. So the leader of the 21st century needs to be agile to serve amid many challenges that we are facing today. You know that globalization is leading to greater competition in the marketplace in terms of accessibility to foreign markets, adopting lower cost production strategies, lowering prices, greater variety of choices for consumers. So these trends, they boil down and they are creating work-related stressors for employees and increasing what we call the job burnout. The second challenge is technological breakthrough, which and the first mover advantage, which is putting more pressure on existing firms to ensure sustainability and to acquire a larger market share. Again, here we have more stress for both leaders and employees alike and greater job burnout. The natural disaster, and we witnessed lastly the COVID-19 pandemic, where leaders had to change the job requirements in order for their organizations and sustain. Some industries, such as the education industry, they introduce educational leadership preparation program that focus on emotional intelligence, emotional agility, crisis reduction stresses program to alleviate pressure and job burnout. We also talk about in a global world diversity and inclusion programs that require employees to learn from each other's culture. Hence, jobs are becoming more and more demanding and challenging. And also the adoption of CSR activities, they require a higher caliber of employees who are more engaged, invested in their work. Hence, employees are pressured to their limits in a dynamic environments, while others suffer from a state of work-life imbalance. So obviously, the need to be agile serves to bypass this chaos. You know that a survey done on top executive in Fortune 500 companies, they identified that in order to ensure the success of organizations and to be able to manage in a diversified and global workforce, leaders must show emotional agility. Slide 2, please. So the ability of leaders to succeed amid all these strands depends on the degree to which they are emotionally agile, to be able to control their followers' emotions and instability. This brings us to the main question: what is emotional agility? What is meant by leaders having emotional agility? You know, the term is mesmerizing as its psychological roots. And now psychologists defined it as an innovative approach to control in a better way the downturns of life. We have two perspectives for this definition. We have the psychological perspective based on its relationship with the functioning of the mind, where we have two techniques here. The mind mapping technique, which states that in order to become emotionally agile and a better leader, we have four main key steps to be taken. First of all, showing up, it means, and this is according to David and Congleton, using kindness, curiosity. Then stepping out means detaching from thoughts to create a distance between feelings and reaction. Walking your why means after detaching, people can focus on values and act accordingly. And moving out meaning cultivating the mind and achieving a behavioral change. Now, the second technique is a mindfulness-based stress reduction program, MBSR, according to Tang, which was considered a cornerstone for building emotionally agile leaders, as it increases the followers' work-life balance and resilience. Now, in the academic perspective, we talk about emotional intelligence. You know, it's a concept that became widespread in academic literature by Salovey and Meyer, and then became popular with Goldman, who defined it as a person's ability to manage his own feelings by showing self-awareness, self-management, motivation, empathy, social skills. Hence, leaders who are high on emotional intelligence possess the soft skills, the right soft skills needed to help their organizations succeed. Slide 3. So the soft skills needed for agile leaders were identified as the resilience agility umbrella. If we look back into the COVID-19 pandemic, they highlighted the importance of these skills as it was a crisis that called for an immediate attitude change by stressing the importance of cultivating soft skills in leaders for organizations to calm their followers' natural and human anxiety. So we talk about the resilience agility umbrella model, where these master skills are considered to be the lingua franca, or the practical language needed for successful management. These skills help leaders to communicate well in a global environment with people who come from different backgrounds and who may speak different languages. Resilience in itself, it helps leaders to take prompt, creative, transformative response to control and manage the effect of robust and powerful events, while emotional agility was used to describe leaders who are emotionally reactive. It means it includes the leader's creativity, vision, passion, persuasiveness, assertiveness, quality improvement, and innovation. Slide 4, please. Emotionally agile leaders, they build agile organizations. So understanding the role that leadership style plays in the organizational agility emerges, specifically for organizations that operate in a highly competitive multinational market. So according to Kurt Lewin, 3 common leadership styles, which are transformational, transactional, laissez-faire, resilience and agility and AI shared to a great extent common trait to the dimensions and roles of the transformational leaders, and to a lesser extent to the transactional, and zero extent to laissez-faire leader style. And here between brackets, in a study, or in my PhD study done on 1,000 instructors in a private university in Lebanon in higher education, we tried to assess which leadership style they are using in order to commit themselves to quality education, in order for their organization to be competitive, to sustain, to deliver quality education. It was found that 90% of instructors were using the transformational style, and this style had lots of dimensions and role which converge with the emotional intelligence and emotional agilities. The transformation leadership dimensions that converge with resilience, EI, and agility were idealized influence in attributes and behaviors, where leaders exhibit a clear vision and ability to gain trust; inspirational motivation, where leaders use their personality to inspire others in order to achieve efficient organizational goals; intellectual simulation, which enables leaders to think outside of the think tank, and they are able to come up with new ideas. So in terms of role, on the other hand, the change agent role of transformation leaders agrees with the quality improvement and vision of agile leaders. The risk-taker role agrees with the entrepreneurial characteristic of agile leadership. The conflict handler role of transformation leadership agrees with the patience, conflict resolution, tolerance of the resilience trait. It also agrees with the social skills dimension of EI. The learning from experience role also, it agrees with emotional agility and with the problem solving and overcoming failure traits of resilience. As a conclusion, we live in a world that is changing. We have lots of challenges. We need agile organizations. And these agile organizations, they need agile leaders who are the avant-garde soldiers. They are transformational leaders who believe in cultural change and can navigate their employees with determination and sincerity in a globalized and a dynamic environment. Thank you.
Next, we go to our fourth speaker, an author, engineer, TED speaker, researcher, project management consultant, PMP, PMI France volunteer, and PhD candidate with 13 years of experience in the IT industry. And allow me to add, always having a smile on her face. Let's all welcome from France, Monina Tunkara.
Thank you so much, Ahmed, for introducing me so greatly. Ralph Stockdale, a well-known researcher on leadership, once said that there are as many definitions of leadership as there are authors who have tried to define the concept. This highlights the idea that leadership can be defined from different perspectives. Tonight, we will delve into African leadership, focusing on the sacred kingship of antiquity and Middle Age, who laid the foundation of power and authority in Africa and the world. Sacred African leadership rests on two pillars. We have the temporary and the spiritual, representing the human power and the power of the religion. Temporal African leadership rests on different values, such as humanness, respect, courage, and orality. Let's explore two paramount values in African perspective, which are respect and orality. Respect is really crucial in African social interaction. And great leaders extend respect to all the individuals, disregarding the hierarchical positions, and especially elderly people. This is because in Africa, the age is deemed more important than social hierarchical position. In Africa, the words of the elderly people are highly valued. As the saying goes, when what an old man can see sitting down, the yacht cannot standing up. In Africa, spoken words carry as much as weight as the written one. Being human in the African context means honoring your words, and your credibility depends on how well you honor what you said. Great leaders' words are like sworn. This is why they have to excel in the art of rhetoric and carefully choose their words. As Nelson Mandela emphasized it, the tribal chief was always the last to speak. Sacred knowledge is passed down through orality, as the Malian writer said. In Africa, when an elderly person dies, it is a library that burns. Now, when exploring the spiritual aspect of African leadership, we find a strong connection between the religion and the power. And in Dogon tradition, for example, the king is called Hogond, which means the representative of God on earth, and he is the axis that connects heaven and earth. The rituals of sacrifices are part of African traditional leadership day-to-day actions. For example, in getting any projects, any decision making, any healing done, there are some rituals of sacrifices that are followed. Now, can we go to the next page, please? Thank you. And one of the well-known African leaders is Sunjata Keita. He was the emperor of Manding, and in 1236, he established a charter, a constitution that was based on humanness. Now, let's explore the three of the principle of the Mandinga Charter. We have the Sinangunya. This is also known as joking cousinhood. It fosters social cohesion and harmony among different surnames, allowing playful teasing that promote open communication. And we have as second principle, Vetana Manyonya, that establish a strong prohibition, foster mutual respect among diverse groups, prevents harm, and promote an obligation to help each other. Thus, this creates a pact of reciprocal solidarity. And last, we have the Nyamakalaya. This encompasses different groups that include roles such as telling the truth to the leaders, providing them with advices, and taking responsibilities with others. In conclusion, let's go to the next slide, please. We as project leaders can learn valuable lessons from African leadership that emphasize humanness, respect, and orality. By balancing the professionalism and humanism in our day-to-day work, we can also respect all the individuals, disregarding their level of hierarchy and treating everyone equally, and also honoring our commitments. Moreover, we can create a an environment of psychological safety for truth tellers, establish conflict resolution systems, and take responsibility for others. Thank you.
And for our final speaker, she's a researcher in law and religion on the Catholic origins of the formation of legal and monetary leadership in ancient monarchical regimes in Europe and Africa, antiquity until today. She is also specialized in Islamic monetary orders and in digital monetary orders, bitcoins, and crypto. Let's all welcome from France our next speaker, Josephine Hanel.
Hello. I will tell you about the leadership royal, the leadership in the monarchy. It is about talking the birth of the modern world through the notion of royal leadership and sacrifice. This comparative study of Africa and Europe and Mediterranean. Talking about leadership is very interesting. Talking about power in leadership is exciting. But talking about sacrifice in the leadership is more difficult. It is always easy to command, that more to sacrifice. But leadership and sacrifice are inseparable. There is no leadership without sacrifice. Anthropological and ethnological studies show that the sacrifice of the king for his people is the leadership that founded the modern civilized world. The anthropological studies show the similarities in the sacrifice of the king African and the sacrifice in the Christian religion Christian, the sacrifice of the Jesus Christ. I will present here the passage from barbaric leadership to original divine leadership and its incarnation or embodiment in Africa and Western Europe and in the world. The crisis of leadership leads us to explore the original foundation of leadership. Indeed, the foundation of leadership that gave birth to the modern and contemporary civilized world. I have chosen here Christianism is a good illustration in terms of sacrifice. The doctrine of leadership in the Christianism is based on the sacrifice of the leader, as in Africa, as in Europe in the Middle Age. After the Iron Age and after the time of the Pharaoh, the great Christian empire were formed in Africa in the first centuries. In Europe, it is the Apostle Paul who repeats sacrifice in leadership through Christian doctrine. With the conversion of the Roman Empire, the Christian doctrine of sacrifice in the leadership is diffused in the world by the Catholic Church. Legal politic institutions have their origin in Christian leadership. Now, we will see the notion of sacrifice in the leadership training. It is a question of saying the formation of the leadership from an image projection of the formation of the terrestrial globe, that is to the formation of the world. Please, I want the first step, please. Is possible to return in the first step, please? The first, yeah, thank you. Okay, at the beginning of the world was the leadership. At the beginning of the world, we have a royal leadership. The king considered as God. His leadership is based on vitalism, that is to say, a superior physical strength, temporal power, and religious power. We can take the example of Shaka. The King Shaka of the Black Napoleon, it is the heart of war. The king make human sacrifice, help offer children to the divinities. It is a passage from the worship of the one God to the pagan gods. We think here of the fall of Adam and Eve, the crime of Cain, which gives birth to the barbaric leadership. It is also the time of debt slavery. Yes, in antiquity, slavery is not racial, but is financial. One becomes slavery by the debts usury. In second step, please. In the second step, it's the reality of sacrifice. Imperial royal leadership based on circumcision and animal sacrifice. It's a preparation for the embodiment of divine sacrifice leadership. Here, the king makes animal sacrifice. The royal leadership based on animal sacrifice on circumcision. Here, it's the leadership of alliance of God with stopping human sacrifice by defeating the sacrifice of Abraham on Isaac. It is the leadership of Abrahamic alliance. Thank you. And the three step. In the three step of leadership training from the notion of sacrifice, its embodiment of divine original leadership or messianic leadership. In the image present here, we can see a cross. It is the symbol of sacrifice. It's time of modern leadership. It's time of leadership of God. It's the time of the leadership Trinity, Father, Son, Spirit. God loved Mary, he gave her son, Jesus Christ, through man and through God, the man God. The martyr or bloody leadership of the cross puts end to all human and animal sacrifice and also circumcision. Only the blood of the Son appears the anger of the Father God. And is a perfect leadership, the sacrifice of the leader is the leadership of the love. It's time of cancellation of the original debt for monetary slavery or slavery or for financial insolvency. It's sanctification of the legal and monetary institution. It's sanctification of the family. It's sanctification of institution economized. It's time where the divine or messianic leadership is embodied in imperial royalty in Africa, in West Europe, and in the world. And the fourth tape, please. Yeah. Okay. In time of embodiment of model of original divine or messianic leadership in imperial and royal institution in Africa and Western Europe and all the world by Catholic Church. We can see here in the image a large globe that incarnates in the small terrestrial globe. Is the model of divine or messianic leadership that embodied in the world in the leadership of man. The Catholic Church has given the world the regime of democracy, the responsibility of the leader. In Church Catholic, the Pope rejects, no longer respects the law of God. He deposed, he is removed from office. Similarly, if his minister reject the faith, the Pope can in turn depose them to dismiss him. It is the parliamentary system, the regime of the responsibility of the chief. I want to show here that the parliamentary system is a Catholic original system. And the Catholic Church give the parliamentary system in the world. That's true. Is a study of a lot of study show that's reality. Now, my conclusion today, leadership is based on power, notoriety, dominance. But the leader, Jesus Christ, is great leader who sacrificed his life, who died for other to life. The true leadership is a sacrifice. It is a service. It is a love. Jesus took the condition of the financial slave in his debt so that he could be free. There is no leadership without responsibility. There is no leadership without sacrifice. There is no leadership without love. Since the secularization of institutions, Africa and Western Europe have chosen to establish a leadership without the religion, PR, but history formally demonstrates that all the time the leadership has been based, dualistic based on religion and temporal power. In other words, the reason of God and the reason of humanity. But our society refused to recognize the divine dimension in the leadership. That is why the philosopher Nietzsche said that God is dead, we all killed him. Indeed, the death of God in our societies is the death of leadership. Thank you for attention.
Thank you to all of you for the great session of today. And we have some questions in the chat. So now we have 9 minutes left, and we will use those minutes to answer as many questions as we can. But let's see. So I will start with the first question for Hamad. And the question is, how a leader can face the denial management? How can help an employee to get out from his or her weakness without offending him or her?
Okay. Of course, when we talk leadership, especially in the modern time, modern era, we talk about ethical leadership. Coleman, when he spoke about the 5 dimensions of emotional intelligence in leadership, he talked about empathy. So when we see an employee with denial management, of course, we don't want to face him rudely. We need, as leaders, to try to help him see his weaknesses. I would recommend for such practices lead by example. When you are leading by example in the fields where this employee has weaknesses, he or she has weaknesses, then you can show them their flaws, and this would be a great way to help them overcome this. Of course, leadership, it's ethical leadership. We talk about ethical leadership. The dictator leadership is gone forever. No more. It's there. So this is my answer. And let me just say something. Our colleague Donna Cole is making tremendous efforts to put this book on Amazon. She's in the process. In the meantime, anyone who is wishing to have this book, I can ship it to you. I can send it. But you have to contact me via my mobile. Thank you very much.
Thank you also for those additional information. We have different congratulations in the chat. And so we have another question. And this question is for Gada. So you talked about emotional agility. How can we practice this emotional agility? Share with us some tips. You're on mute. Sorry, Gada.
Gada, unmute.
Okay, hi. You know that to be emotionally agile, you have to be very flexible in thoughts and feelings and to respond to everyday situation. It means you have to detach yourself. You use your past emotional experience. You don't judge yourself if you are too angry or too sad. Don't use it in order to use cognitive thinking to solve problems. You just try to, first of all, show up. It means notice your thoughts, your feelings, and behaviors without judging. And then you step out from these thoughts. It means separate your thoughts from feeling and from ourselves. And then we walk our why. It means we take action by using the insights from our emotional experience and combining them with our values and goals. That's why it's very important, first of all, in emotional agility, to be able to identify how do we feel, control how we feel, and then we separate it from our judgment, from the way we solve problems, and from the way we see the people outside or the environment.
Thank you, Gada.
Thank you.
I move on with the additional questions. So, considering emerging technologies and super fast changes like AI and others, what do you think is the current challenge for leaders? I would say that this is a very holistic question. So I don't know who wants to answer.
I can start it. So, in my point of view, as we are a lot of development in terms of artificial intelligence and technology in general, I believe that human skills are becoming as important as they never been before, because some, as we can witness it, there are some general skills like writing emails or doing general tasks that are not that are becoming obsolete because of the development of artificial intelligence. So in my point of view, what is really important for us now as human is to develop our emotional intelligence, to develop our humanness in one word, because this is what will make the difference, and it is already making a difference in life. Because if, for example, they say that there was a study that found that some artificial intelligence in the area of medicine are more efficient than doctors. And in this area, I believe that I will choose the doctor I will go to see, depending on how he will provide me, what he will provide me in as human connection, and regarding competencies like empathy as well. And I believe that is what leaders have to develop in the coming years.
Thank you very much, Monina. Thank you very much. So I think that we need to...
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I was looking to raise your hand, but I didn't find it. But since it's a very important question, I would like to thank Monina for her contribution. I'd like to add something. Now, in the coming years, we are going to see e-leadership. We're talking about virtual leadership, about electronic leadership. Like we have previously, we had seen word of mouth, and now we see e-word of mouth. And actually, this also was the topic of my third book in leadership, was bridging leadership to e-leadership. So it's no more leadership. We are going to see in the future, very near future, e-leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you to all of you. I would ask Thomas if we can go to the next slide. There are some additional information. Exactly, sorry, it's in Italian, but you may remember that if you would like to receive your PDU, you have to have already added your ID PMI. And please send to us all the different questions you may have. This is the email address, so events and blah, blah, blah. And we will take care of all the questions that we have received in our Q&A part. I would say thank you to all the different authors of the book. It was a pleasure for us to have all of you with us with this great session today. And what else? I don't know if you would like to say ciao in Italian. Ciao is the best way to say thank you to and bye-bye to all of
Thank
our...
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you to
Bye-bye.
Grazie
Italy.
mille.
Thank
Grazie
you.
mille.
Ciao,
Yeah.
bella.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Until we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.